What is up, everybody? We are on day 53 of our Bible in a Year series. Just finished Numbers, and we're on to Deuteronomy now. Now, this is a little different. Deuteronomy is kind of a last message from Moses to the Israelites before they go into the Promised Land. Moses is going to give this, and then he's going to die. He doesn't get to go into the Promised Land because of not listening to God. So he is kind of doing this as a last message before these kids that he kind of has led go into what God has promised them. There's some warnings. There's some kind of remembering what happened previously. There's three basic sermons in here, or messages, I guess. And I think common belief is that this took place over the course of about a month. And then after that, Moses goes on. So we will jump right in to Deuteronomy 1. Okay, these are the words Moses spoke to all Israel across the Jordan in the wilderness, in the Arabah, opposite Sup, between Paran and Tophel, Laban, Hazeroth, and Dizahab. It is an 11-day journey from Horeb to Kadesh Barnea by way of Mount Seir. In the 40th year, in the 11th month, on the first of the month, Moses told the Israelites everything the Lord had commanded him to say to them. So, this is a reminder that this journey should have only taken 11 days. But they're on their 40th year. And they're on their 40th year. This is what he's going to get into, explaining why it has taken this long and the importance of listening to God. That's what a lot of the theme here is going to be, is the importance of listening to God. This was after he had defeated King Sihon of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon, King Og of Bashan, who lived in Ashtaroth and Edrei, across the Jordan in the land of Moab. Moses began to explain this law, saying, "The Lord our God spoke to us at Horeb. You have stayed at this mountain long enough. Resume your journey and go to the hill country of the Amorites and their neighbors in the Arabah, the hill country, the Judean foothills, the Negev, and the sea coast, to the land of the Canaanites, and to Lebanon, as far as the great river, the Euphrates River. See, I have set the land before you. Enter and take possession of the land the Lord swore to give your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and their future descendants. I said to you at that time, I can't bear the responsibility for you on my own. The Lord your God has so multiplied you that today you are as numerous as the stars of the sky. May the Lord, the God of your ancestors, increase you 1,000 times more and bless you as he promised you. But how can I bear your troubles, burdens, and disputes by myself? Appoint for yourselves wise, understanding, and respected men from each of your tribes, and I will make them your leaders." You replied to me, "What you propose to do is good." So I took the leaders of your tribes, wise and respected men, and set them over you as leaders, commanders for thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens, and officers for your tribes. I commanded your judges at the time, hear the cases between your brothers and judge rightly between a man and his brother or his resident alien. Do not show partiality when deciding a case. Listen to small and great alike. Do not be intimidated by anyone, for judgment belongs to God. Bring me any case too difficult for you, and I will hear it. At that time, I commanded you about all the things you were to do. We then set out from Horeb and went across all the great and terrible wilderness you saw on the way to the hill country of the Amorites, just as the Lord our God had commanded us. When we reached Kadesh Barnea, I said to you, you have reached the hill country of the Amorites, which the Lord our God is giving to us. See, the Lord your God has set the land before you. Go up and take possession of it, as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, has told you. Do not be afraid or discouraged. So you'll notice Moses is going over what they've been through, what they've gone through, physical places where they have been. And I think part of this is showing um, God is keeping his promise. He made a promise of a specific area, specific land that he was going to give. He made this promise to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. And as they're going through all these other areas, he's calling back to that promise to show there are other areas that, yes, God could have allowed the Israelites to stay in. But his focus is keeping the promise that he made for this specific land. So, verse 22. Then all of you approached me and said, let's send men ahead of us so that they may explore the land for us and bring us back a report about the route we should go up and the cities we will come to. The plan seemed good to me, so I selected 12 men from among you, one man from each tribe. They left and went up into the hill country and came to Eshcol Valley, scouting the land. They took some of the fruit from the land in their hands from the land in their hands, carried it down to us, and brought us back a report. The land the Lord our God is giving us is good, but you were not willing to go up. You rebelled against the command of the Lord your God. You grumbled in your tents and said, the Lord brought us out of the land of Egypt to hand us over to the Amorites in order to destroy us, because he hates us. Where can we go? Our brothers have made us lose heart, saying, the people are larger and taller than we are. The cities are large, fortified to the heavens. We also saw the descendants of the Anakim there. So, what was the issue? Right? And it may seem like, okay, yeah, those people are really, really big. It's going to be a hard fight. So maybe like it seems a somewhat legitimate concern. But the thing is, they've seen God's power demonstrated and demonstrated and demonstrated and demonstrated. And by them not wanting to follow along with what God said because they fear these people, they are saying they don't trust God. They are saying they don't think that God's power is enough to help them win, to let them win against these people. So that is why this is as big a deal as it is. Verse 29. So I said to you, don't be terrified or afraid of them. The Lord your God, who goes before you, will fight for you, just as you saw him do for you in Egypt. And you saw in the wilderness how the Lord your God carried you as a man carries his son. All along the way you traveled until you reached this place. But in spite of this, you did not trust the Lord your God, who went before you on the journey to seek out a place for you to camp. He went in the fire by night and in the cloud by day to guide you on the road you were to travel. When the Lord heard your words, he grew angry and swore an oath. None of these men in this evil generation will see the good land I swore to give your ancestors, except Caleb, the son of Jephunneh. He will see it, and I will give him and his descendants the land on which he has set foot, because he remained loyal to the Lord. The Lord was angry with me also because of you, and said, you will not enter there either. Joshua son of Nun, who attends you, will enter it. Encourage him, for he will enable Israel to inherit. So again, it's a warning. And this is Moses setting up like, hey, I messed up too. I don't get to go into this land because of my mistakes. Kind of a trying to show them, like, learn from the mistakes that I've made so you don't make those same mistakes. Verse 39. Your children, who you said would be plunder, your sons who don't yet know good from evil, will enter there. I will give them the land, and they will take possession of it. But you are to turn back and head for the wilderness by way of the Red Sea. You answered me, 'We have sinned against the Lord. We will go up and fight just as the Lord our God commanded us.' Then each of you put on his weapons of war and thought it would be easy to go up into the hill country. But the Lord said to me, 'Tell them, don't go up and fight, for I am not with you to keep you from being defeated by your enemies.' So I spoke to you, but you didn't listen. You rebelled against the Lord's command and defiantly went up into the hill country. Then the Amorites who lived there came out against you and chased you like a swarm of bees. They routed you from Seir as far as Hormah. When you returned, you wept before the Lord, but he didn't listen to your requests or pay attention to you. For this reason, you stayed in Kadesh as long as you did." Okay, chapter 2. And this is just continuing on this journey, going over where they've been. um, then we turned back and headed for the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea, as the Lord had told me, and we traveled around the hill country for Seir in many days. The Lord then said to me, "You've been traveling around this hill country long enough. Turn north. Command the people you are about to travel through the territory of your brothers, the descendants of Esau, who live in Seir. They will be afraid of you, so be very careful. Don't provoke them, for I will not give you any of their land, not even a foot of it, because I have given Esau the hill country of Seir as his possession. You may purchase food from them so that you may eat, and buy water from them to drink. For the Lord your God has blessed you in all the work of your hands. He has watched over your journey, though through this immense wilderness, the Lord your God has been with you for these past 40 years, and you have lacked nothing." Um, Again, he's showing them he had set aside this land for Esau, and he gave it to Esau and his people, and they are there. So it's like building up to what God has got for them. So we bypassed our brothers, the descendants of Esau, who live in Seir. We turned away from the Araba road, and from Elath and Ezion Geber. We traveled along the road to the wilderness of Moab. The Lord said to me, "Show no hostility toward Moab, and do not provoke them to battle, for I will not give you any of their land as possession, since I have given Ar as a possession to the descendants of Lot." Again, same thing. The Emim, a great and numerous people as tall as the Anakim, had previously lived there. They were also regarded as Rephaim, like the Anakim, though the Moabites called them Emim. The Horites had previously lived in Seir, but the descendants of Esau drove them out, destroying them completely and settling in their place, just as Israel did in the land of its possession the Lord gave them. The Lord said, "Now get up and cross the Zered Valley." So we crossed the Zered Valley. The time we spent traveling from Kadesh Barnea until we crossed the Zered Valley was 38 years, until the entire generation of fighting men had perished from the camp, as the Lord had sworn to them. Indeed, the Lord's hand was against them to eliminate them from the camp until they had all perished. When all the fighting men had died among the people, the Lord spoke to me, "Today you are going to cross the border of Moab at Ar. When you get close to the Amorites, don't show any hostility to them or provoke them, for I will not give you any of the Amorites' land as a possession. I've given it as a possession to the descendants of Lot." This too used to be regarded as the land of the Rephaim. The Rephaim lived there previously, though the Amorites called them Zamzumim, a great and numerous people, tall as the Anakim. The Lord destroyed the Rephaim at the advance of the Ammonites, so that they drove them out and settled in their place. This was just as he had done for the descendants of Esau, who lived in Seir when he destroyed the Horites before them. He drove them out and have lived in their place until now. The Caphtorim, who came from Caphtor, destroyed the Avites, who lived in villages as far as Gaza and settled in their place. The Lord The Lord also said, "Get up, move out, and cross the Arnon Valley. See, I have handed the Amorites, King Sihon of Heshbon, and his land over to you. Begin to take possession of it. Engage him in battle. Today I will begin to put the fear of dread of you on the peoples everywhere under heaven. They will hear the report about you, tremble, and be in anguish because of you." So he's telling them, um, again, they're getting ready for battle. Um, Recapping, they're getting ready for battle. So I sent messengers with an offer of peace to King Sihon of Heshbon from the wilderness of Kedemoth, saying, "Let us travel through your land. We will keep strictly the highway. We will not turn to the right or to the left. You can sell us food in exchange for silver, so we may eat, and give us water for silver, so we may drink. Only let us travel through on foot, just as the descendants of Esau who live in Seir did for us, and the Moabites who live in Ar did for us, until we cross the Jordan into the land of the Lord our God is giving us." But King Sihon of Heshbon would not let us travel through his land, for the Lord your God had made his spirit stubborn and his heart obstinate in order to hand him over to you, as has now taken place. Then the Lord said to me, "See, I have begun to give Sihon and his land to you. Begin to take possession of it." So Sihon and his whole army came out against us for battle at Jahaz. The Lord our God handed him over to us, and we defeated him, his sons, and his whole army. At that time, we captured all his cities and completely destroyed the people of every city, including the women and children. We left no survivors. Um, I'm going to come back to that point. We took only the livestock and the spoil from the cities we captured as plunder for ourselves. There was no city that was inaccessible to us from Auror and the rim of the Arnon Valley, along with the city in the valley, even as far as Gilead. The Lord our God gave everything to us, but you did not go to the Ammonites' land all along the bank of the Jabbok River, the cities of the hill country, or any place that the Lord our God had forbidden. So we see commonly a pushback against Christianity, against the goodness of God, is stuff like what we see here, where it says that they completely wiped them out, even the women and the children. This is There's a couple of different understandings of this or possible interpretations of this. Personally, I think this is hyperbolic language, mainly because we see that a lot in this kind of time frame. Frequently, there is a couple examples. There is, I think it was an Egyptian king who wrote something like this, said that their enemy that they were fighting, they completely annihilated, completely destroyed them. But we know from other records they didn't. It was actually a pretty close battle. And so it wasn't even like a very, very lopsided event. It was just basically a hyperbolic way to say that they won. We also see, I believe it was Babylonians mentioned. I might be wrong on that, but there's a text, like I said, I believe it's Babylonian, that mentions that they completely annihilated Israel. They completely destroyed Israel. But we know that's not the case. So I think a lot of this is hyperbolic language. I don't think that it is actually killing the women and children, killing everyone there. I think a lot of it is hyperbole, specifically because that's a lot of what we see from writing of this time period. Um, we see it in Egyptian stuff, and so personally, I think that makes sense because Moses is writing this. Generally accepted Moses as the author. He would have learned how to write this while he was being raised in Pharaoh's house. So I think that makes sense to me. Chapter 3. Then we turned and went up the road to Bashan, and King Og of Bashan came out against us with his whole army to do battle in Edrei. But the Lord said to me, do not fear him, for I have handed him over to you along with his whole army and his land. Do to him as you did to King Sihon of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon. So the Lord our God also handed over King Og of Bashan and his whole army to us. We struck him until there was no survivor left. Again, I believe that's hyperbolic. We captured all his cities at that time. There wasn't a city that we didn't take from them, 60 cities, the entire region of Argog, the kingdom of Og, and Bashan. All these were fortified with high walls, gates, and bars, besides a large number of rural villages. We completely destroyed them as we had done to King Sihon of Heshbon, destroying the men, women, and children of every city. But we took all the livestock and the spoil from the city as plunder for ourselves. At that time, we took the land of the two Amorite kings across the Jordan, from the Arnon Valley as far as Mount Hermon, which the Sidonians call Sirion, but the Amorites call Sinir, all the cities of the plateau, Gilead, and Bashan, as far as Salekah and Edrei, cities of Og's kingdom in Bashan. Only King Og of Bashan was left of the remnant of the Rephaim. His bed was made of iron, isn't it? In Rabbah of the Ammonites, it is 13.5 feet long and 6 feet wide by a standard measure. At that time, we took possession of his land. I gave to the Reubenites and Gadites the area extending from Aror by the Arnon Valley and half the hill country of Gilead, along with its cities. I gave to half the tribe of Manasseh, the rest of Gilead, and all Bashan, the kingdom of Og, the entire region of Argob, the whole territory of Bashan used to be called the land of Rephaim. Jair, a descendant of Manasseh, took over the entire region of Argob as far as the border of Geshurites and Maccathites. He called Bashan by his own name, Jair's village. As it is today, I gave Gilead to Machir, and I gave to the Reubenites and Gadites the area extending from Gilead to the Arnon Valley. The middle of the valley was the border, and up to the Jabbok River, the border of the Ammonites. The Arabah and Jordan are also borders from Chinnereth as far as the sea of the Arabah, the Dead Sea, under the slopes of Pisgah in the east. I commanded you at the time, the Lord your God has given you this land to possess. All your valiant men will cross over in the battle formation ahead of your brothers and Israelites, but the wives, dependents, and livestock, I know that you have a lot of livestock, will remain in the cities I have given you until the Lord gives rest to your brothers as he has to you. And they also take possession of the land the Lord your God is giving them across the Jordan. Then each of you may return to his possessions that I have given you. I commanded Joshua at the time, your own eyes have seen everything the Lord your God has done to these two kings. The Lord will do the same to all the kingdoms you are about to enter. Don't be afraid of them, for the Lord your God fights for you. So, reminder, all this has happened, delivered you from all this. It's going to continue to happen. At that time, I begged the Lord God, you have begun to show your greatness and your strong hand to your servant. For what God is there in heaven or on earth who can perform deeds and mighty acts like yours? Please let me cross over and see the beautiful land on the other side of the Jordan, that's good hill country in Lebanon. But the Lord was angry with me because of you and would not listen to me. The Lord said to me, that's enough. Do not speak to me again about this matter. Go to the top of Pisgah and look to the west, north, south, and east, and see it with your own eyes, for you will not cross the Jordan. But commission Joshua and encourage and strengthen him, for he will cross over ahead of the people and enable them to inherit this land that you will see. So we stayed in the valley facing Beth Peor. Okay. So Deuteronomy 1 through 3 is in the books. Again, Moses is trying to get them I think he's trying to show them in the past that God's delivered. He's trying to get some gratitude in them, get something that they can call back to when things do get difficult, and he's not there to tell them these stories. It's important stuff, and then there's a lot we can learn today from that. So let's jump straight into our questions. Question one: what lessons can we learn from the Israelites' journey in the wilderness about perseverance and faithfulness in our own lives? Um, Sticking with it, even when things got difficult. I mean, yes, there's a lot of times that they wanted to back out and they wanted to go away and they didn't listen to God, but God kept correcting them. Um, God disciplines those that He loves, right? And so God kept correcting them, kept showing them back to the way to the path that He had made for them. Now they had to go the long way around. They had to take 40 years to go 11 days, and there's times that we have to do similar. We have to stay in something longer, and it's not necessarily because God had planned on us to stay there longer. It's because we're stupid and we do stupid stuff. Um, that's a solid theological point. Um, yeah. Question two: how does Moses' recounting of past events help us understand the importance of remembering God's faithfulness and guidance? Again, he's showing them when you have strayed from what God said, it goes bad. When you have followed what God said, no matter how crazy it seems, no matter how difficult it seems like it may be, God provides and it goes good. So it's showing them something that they can build on going forward, examples that they can have going forward. So that way it can help encourage them to make the right decisions going forward. Um, Question three: in what ways can we apply the principles of obedience and trust in God's promises as we face challenge in our own? I think the biggest one is drawing back on what was done for us before. We can see stuff in our own lives. We can see biblical stories. We can see stuff in other people's lives. But seeing that and knowing that that is the God that we serve still, same God, and He cares as much for us. He wants good for us. That may not always look good for us. It may not always look good in the moment to us or look how we want it. But ultimately, God is going to either give us good or He will turn the bad around to be good. So it's a lot about perspective. And that's why Moses is giving a lot of this message. Is it's a lot about perspective. So that is it for today. Excited to get into Deuteronomy some more. It's a very good, I think, very undervalued. I think a lot of the Old Testament is undervalued, especially like I said, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Just in Exodus, everyone loves. They're exciting, they're fast, they're action packed. But I think Leviticus especially gets a bad rap. But I'm excited. It's going to be good, and hope it's a blessing to you. Hope it continues to be a blessing to you. If it has been, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff that helps the algorithm know, hey, people like this, so we're going to show it to more people. Word of mouth is still the best way that podcasts spread. So if this has been a blessing to you, pass it along to other people. Let them, they can jump in on whatever the current day is. They can go back to day one and work their way forward. They can binge or whatever and get caught up to where we are if they want. There's really no wrong way to do it. And we're going to do this every single year for the foreseeable future. We'll do different translations every year. But yes, if this has been a blessing to you, pass it along to others and get them plugged in so we can continue pushing the gospel as far as we possibly can. So tomorrow we'll be continuing in Deuteronomy. And until then, God bless.